I am live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Illuminating the Sunday Stories that bind us. I'm so happy to be here again and to be doing this. Before I get started, I just want to make sure that those of you who are watching have important things like a cup of tea. I have a cup of tea. This is particularly a tea that's called Tranquility from David's tea, and it has Tulsi in it, which is a natural tea that helps calm uh, and relax your nervous system. So definitely you want a cup of tea. And if you want a candle, I have a candle. I don't even, you may be able to hear it. It's one of those wick candles that kind of sound like wood burning or crackling while you light it. So I've got that going on in the background. I don't have a blanket this week on me, but you may want a blanket. Anything that's going to help you feel comfy and relaxed, because that is one of my goals. One of my goals in doing these are that you can have a relaxing Sunday, because the truth is that sometimes our Sunday scaries hijack us and leave us in a bad mood or just anxious, and it takes away all the peace and joy that we could possibly experience on a Sunday. So, yeah. So, anything that's going to help you feel comfortable. Aromatherapy is another thing. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with aromatherapy, scents bypass our logical mind and they go right to the amygdala. And the amygdala is where we store memories, and it's where we also have that fight or flight. So it's kind of nice to know that it just goes right there. And scents like lavender and chamomile help calm us. So if you like that, you can have that going. And again, that will help calm you as well. So, one other thing is a journal. So, having something to write in. I do a lot of journal prompts and a lot of things to help you gain insight. So, that's another thing you may want to have with you right now. I'm in a different venue this week. So, last week I was in my office. This week I'm actually in a room in my house. This is actually considered my, during COVID, it was my office, but day to day, it is a meditation room and my dressing room, my closet, and where I do all that. So it's a multifunctioning room, but I'm hoping I tried to create somewhat of an ambiance that's peaceful for you as well here. So it's important to create a safe space. That's something that I do before anything, any sort of workshop, any sort of group work where there's going to be more than one person speaking. So even though I know we're virtual and confidentiality is a little bit different, just holding the space and the idea that whatever is shared in here stays in here. So if there is a username or there is something that you can identify, just respecting that whatever people share in here stays in here and not taking that outside of this space. The other thing that I hope to have is just a willingness and an openness. Some of you may have heard of mindfulness before, some of you may not have, some of you may have heard of internal family systems before, some of you may not have. Whatever we do today, I just invite you to just be willing and open and trust the process. The other thing I ask you to do when you do this work or when we all get together is asking your critics to kind of stay outside the room. So that can be a critic for yourself or that could be a critic for someone else. We find that judgment in this work isn't always helpful. So, and it's hard because we all judge. You may be judging me right now. I'm sure there's like a ton of stories, speaking of stories, that you may be saying about me right now and this work. And if that's the case, just notice them, try not to attach to them and just let them pass by. But I also really encourage you to do the same for yourself. There are different things that may come up in this work, and I want you to just be curious towards it and compassionate and non-judgmental about it, because there isn't a good or bad, right or wrong. It's just a process of becoming more aware and getting to know yourself better and getting to know your patterns, which a very common pattern is the Sunday Scaries, is the fact that we get super anxious before the week starts. So many of us work really hard or are juggling so many things that it's hard not to have feelings as you go into your week. The other thing is just having fun. I really invite all of you to have fun. Feel free to joke and things like that. I really, really, really encourage participation as well. I would love for you to post comments. You can ask questions. You can make comments about what comes up for you. You can make comments about something that I've said. Anything that you do, I get to see, and then I can comment on and I can work off of that. Otherwise, you just get a whole lot of Jen. You get a whole lot of me. And you may want to have the opportunity to share something, or you may want someone else to be able to show some part of themselves. And I can guarantee you that whatever you share, people can relate to. Whatever you ask, people can relate to. So I really, really encourage participation. And if there's something else that you need, there's something else that you need in order to feel comfortable participating, please post that in the comments. So is there anything else anybody needs before we get started? Anything anyone else needs? Okay. All right. I'm not seeing anything, so I'm going to dive in. So as I mentioned before, the Sunday Scaries are something, they're real, and they take over and they rob people of any sort of joy or relaxation that they can still experience in the final hours of their Sunday before they head into their work week or whatever is happening in their lives. And I am very passionate about illuminating the stories that bind us. And if you think about it, Sunday Scaries or Sunday stories can bind us, because if we have a story like, I'm never going to get anything done. So that's a story, right? I'm never going to get everything that I need to get done this week. Right. Okay. Suddenly we're bound underneath that story. And that may cause the anxiety in our bodies. That may get us completely stressed out and lose any kind of joy in the day. So that's what I mean when I say illuminating stories that bind us. And specifically for this, illuminating the Sunday stories that bind us. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to guide you in different exercises that can help you not only illuminate and become more aware of your Sunday stories or Sunday Scaries, but also I'm going to provide different exercises that can help you start to dissolve them. What I mean by that is a lot of these stories and beliefs have a lot of charge. If you think about it, the fact that they can make us so anxious, so physically, viscerally anxious, they have a lot of charge. They have a lot of power. So the work I do is to hopefully, well, I wouldn't even say hopefully. The work that I do helps dissolve them. It's definitive. It will help you take away some of the charge and become more aware of the pattern. And when we get into that place, we actually become the driver. We become the one in control rather than the Sunday Scary or the Sunday Story taking over. And that just actually made me think of something. Sometimes when we do first get mindful of something, it may seem a little bit louder because maybe we've been hiding it. You know, think about it. You may have Sunday Scaries on a regular basis, but maybe you do something or use something that helps numb it or hide it. So if we're bringing it to light, initially it may seem like it has a little more charge. But please trust me that the more that you work with it, it will lose its charge. I just want to speak a little bit about why this works before we go in. When we are aware of something, I just spoke about, it empowers us or it puts us more in the driver's seat and puts us more in control, right? If you can see something, I always love using the analogy of walking in the night. And if you know where the furniture is, you can avoid the furniture. But if you don't know where it is, you're going to bump into it in the night, in the dark, without even realizing it's there. So this shining it, illuminating it, putting a light onto your Sunday stories, it helps you to be aware and to see it. So you're not bumping into it in the night and getting hurt or having it get in the way of what you want to do. I always say awareness is 50% of the solution. So that's what we're going to be doing today. If you can be more aware of the Sunday story, again, that's 50% of the solution. And hopefully you will leave here with an action item. You will leave here with something that you can take with you throughout the week that's going to help dissolve whatever anxiety the Sunday story or Sunday scary initiated and picked up. Okay. So please, please, please trust me. I'm going to guide you. And really what I like to guide you in doing is accessing your own wisdom. I like to see myself as a facilitator. And so I am not the one that's going to say, fix something in you. I'm going to help facilitate you in discovering whatever wisdom or insight that you need in order to make your Sundays more enjoyable and in order to make your system, your body, mind, and soul move more smoothly and in more harmony or more harmoniously. So, any questions about anything I said before I start getting into the exercises where you're going to start doing some things? All right. I've got nothing. Again. I don't know if you heard me last week. For those of you who know Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Bueller. Okay. All right. So this first part, again, I'm just going to guide you in being with the Sunday story. So those of you who are familiar with mindfulness exercises, it's somewhat of like a guided meditation where you are just going to become more aware of what's happening now, physically, emotionally, in your thought systems. So let's get started with that. I'm going to have another sip of tea, which I hope you're doing as well. And I just want you to sit comfortably in whatever you are sitting on or lying on. So I'm going to go ahead and close my eyes just because it usually helps me concentrate more. I encourage you to do so, but do whatever feels comfortable for you. So just beginning by taking a deep breath to help you transition into this exercise. And I want you to just start with the top of your head and bring your attention to the top of your head. And just allow any tension to release from the top of your head. Allow tension to release from your forehead. Allow tension to release from your jaw. We often carry so much in our jaw. Allow tension to release from your neck and your shoulders, your arms and your hands. Allowing tension to release from your chest and your stomach. Allowing tension to release from your hips and your knees and your feet. And just letting all that tension go. And just taking a moment to connect with your breath. That's actually the first thing I'm going to ask you to do, is just notice your breath. Notice what your body feels like on your inhale. Notice what your body feels like on the exhale. And a lot of times, this is when we first start to get quiet. And this may be where judgment, critic, all of these parts may start to step in. If that happens, just notice it and use your breath to help bring you back to the present moment. So, in this quiet space, I want you to allow whatever Sunday story or Sunday scary may be coming up for you today come to the forefront and come to the surface. So, it may be a to do list, it may be a particular project. It may be that it's Valentine's Day this week, and that stirs up a lot for people. Whatever it is, you do not have to judge it as right or wrong, good or bad. Just notice it and allow it to come up to the forefront right now. And once you notice it, I want you to notice what your body feels like physically when this story or scary is taking over your system. Where do you feel it in your body? And just notice that. And once you've identified it in your body, I want you to take note of the emotions that you're feeling. So, what sort of feelings do you have right now? So, just noticing and identifying all the feelings that may be coming up around your Sunday story or Sunday scary. So, just taking that information in. And next, I just want you to think about what thoughts are going through your mind. So, yes, it may be just the Sunday story itself. I have so much I need to do this week, but there may be other thoughts that are going through. So, just noticing those thoughts and just taking note of whatever those thoughts or beliefs that are going through you right now are coming up. So, just showing gratitude towards yourself for taking the time to do this and for identifying any wisdom that may be coming up for you. And just feeling your feet on the floor, if your feet are touching the floor, or noticing what it feels like on whatever you're sitting on or lying on, noticing the quality of air around you. And when you're ready, just opening your eyes and just taking a moment and writing down whatever just came up for you around your Sunday scary or your Sunday story. So just writing down what came up for you physically, writing down what emotions came up, and then writing also what other thoughts or beliefs or stories may be coming up around your Sunday scary. So just taking all of that in, and I just find that writing it down helps empower you even more so and helps put it outside of yourselves. And for those of you that are brave, I would love for you to share in the comments, share what that was like for you, what that exercise was like for you, share what Sunday story came up, or anything about what I just did. I encourage you to share in the comments. I'm begging you to share in the comments. I'm half joking. I know I shouldn't be pressuring you. It just makes it so much more rich. I can share my stories. Oh, hi, Luke. Thank you. You are so welcome. You are so welcome. Is there anything that has helped you thus far, Luke, that you want to share in terms of helping you with your Sunday scaries? All right. Well, I will share a little bit. So, of course, now that I'm doing this, I take time to really think throughout the day, like, okay, what are some of my Sunday scaries? So last week, I don't know if you remember. Oh, yes, yes, meditation. Thank you, Luke. The meditation always helps. We can't say enough about the benefits of meditation, right? So you have a long week of work ahead. And that actually, Luke, is what came up for me this week. So last week, as I told everyone, this was kind of my Sunday scary. It was the first time I was doing this. And so I wanted to do it perfectly. And this week, I felt a little more relaxed. I felt like, okay, I did it last week. It's just all about bringing people together and helping them. And I just had a little bit less of Sunday scaries. But similar to Luke, I already kind of went through my planner and put out, all the clients I'm seeing this week and all the various to-dos that I have to do around my practice and just around my personal life. And um, there's when you look at all that we do, it can be overwhelming, right? It gets done, 9.999 times out of 10. But when we start the week, it can be really overwhelming. So the meditation sometimes helps us pause, and the meditation helps us connect with that quiet part. And it can also take some of the things that, when we don't pay attention to them, have a lot of charge and power, and just kind of diminish that a little bit. So I don't know if that's what happened to you, Luke, but I hope so. I hope whatever it was that you got out of the meditation, that it's helping you go into your long week. And I thank you for sharing so much. Yeah. And in terms of what comes up physically, I think, physical sensations, I'd say physical sensations sometimes, maybe even more so than the emotions and the thoughts, are what bring people to, say, therapy or feed the panic, because people often feel it in their chest. And sometimes it can feel like they're going to have a heart attack, or they can feel like the shortness of breath or things like that. So it can be really beneficial, even though we may not want to sit with what we're feeling physically. It can be so beneficial to just go into the center and to do that. So I hope some of you had a chance to do that. And if you did, I hope that you also felt that when you do pause and you look at it, it can may be intense at first, like I said earlier, but then it may quiet a little bit. And then the emotions with Sunday scaries, I mean, just the word itself, right, is anxiety or worry. Some of you may have other feelings that come up. Some of you may feel sadness or anger. There may be other emotions. Some of you may even be feeling happy that it's Sunday, or happy that it's the Super Bowl, and excited, and you're going to a Super Bowl party and you're going to connect with people. I also mentioned Valentine's Day, and I feel like Valentine's Day is a real mixed bag. Some of you may be excited about a Valentine's Day date, and some others may feel the kind of the pressure and the sadness that can come from the Hallmark holiday pressure. Um, so I often like to speak to that, because it's real. I've been there. I'm with someone now, but there were years where I was single around Valentine's Day, and there's just something about it. Um, so I just want to speak to that with complete compassion as well. So, all right, moving on, but know that you can always comment. But I'm going to move on for those of you that want to move to another part of this exercise. So, last week I spoke to this as well, and I'm going to speak to it again. I just want to review it as well. In addition to mindfulness exercise, I love parts work. I love the idea of internal family systems, which was created by Richard Schwartz. And what I love about it is it's the idea that we have various parts within ourselves that were born out of family dynamics and family of origin, or maybe a traumatic event. And these parts are born to help with our system. They're there to protect, they're there to manage, they're there to balance. And when they're balanced and when we can use them as consultants, like say like a perfectionist part or even a judge part, they're great. They're these parts of ourselves that we access to make sense of our world. It's when they're to an extreme. So, say, for example, for those of you who feel really anxious going into the week, then you may have an anxiety part or you may have a worry part. Last week, I named my parts as like a perfectionist and as a scheduler. I name a scheduler. I have a scheduler within my system that just is always like, okay, you got to make sure you do this and do this and do that. Right. So, again, that part is really helpful to me. It's just if it goes overboard and I can't be in the present moment and enjoy the rest of my Sunday because it's telling me all the things that I have to do, right? So I love the combination, not only of identifying the story, which is like narrative therapy, mindfulness, awareness, but then also identifying the part that may be hijacking your system. So, like I mentioned earlier, it can be a perfectionist, it can be an anxious part, it could be a critic. What are some other parts that may be coming up? I mentioned the scheduler, the worrier, a lonely part. For those of you who may be struggling with Valentine's Day, there may be a lonely part that's coming up. Whatever it is, I invite you to identify a part that is taking over your system. So, if there are some of you who feel comfortable sharing in the comments what part is taking over your system, if there's some of you who are thinking like, what on earth is Jen Carey talking about? Please let me know, because sometimes I've been so into this approach, I may not be breaking it down, and I invite you to call me out on that. I'm going to take a moment right now and see if I can identify the part for me that came up. It may, a little bit of it is scheduler, for sure. Just looking at like a busy and full week, wanting to make sure that I, get done all that I wish to accomplish this week. Trying to see if there's any other part. This may sound strange, but I think that the other part that's coming up for me is this is actually good. So I'm going to process this with all of you, and hopefully it's going to encourage you to be brave, because I do not need to come on here and just talk about my system all the time. But I would love to hear about some of yours, but I know it's vulnerable to share this stuff. But what came up for me is, so there are some creative projects in my life that right now that I'm really, really excited about. But sometimes I'm like, okay, should I just be being? Should I just be doing something that is not doing? Because I worry, so there's a worry part. I worry that maybe I'm going to burn out by the end of the week because I've focused on these projects, even though they bring me a ton of joy. Is it taking up energy and it's better if I'm doing something more restorative? It's tricky, isn't it? Because some of our passions and our creative pursuits feed us. And that's not to say that mine don't, but sometimes I can get really caught up and just plug along. And then, it's Wednesday and I'm like burnt out. So I don't know if that resonates with anyone, but we're just going to move on. Please share if anything that I said resonated or if there's anything that you want to speak to. But we'll continue to move on, and hopefully you've identified a part. So I am going to just do very like basic surface level parts work, just help you become more aware of it. Again, treat this with very gentle curiosity. Please treat this with non-judgment. there's nothing that is good or bad or right or wrong. This is, again, just your system trying to work things out. Just trying to head into a productive week as best you can, right? Or whatever kind of week you're going into. So I invite all of you to close your eyes. I'm going to close my eyes again because, again, it helps me focus. So I'm going to do that. And I invite you, if you do have a part, right? So I'm going to invite my warrior, because I think that that's the part that is really, even though there was a scheduler, I think I had a warrior part that's just like, oh, I just want to make sure that I get enough rest and all that. So I'm going to invite that part to kind of come to the forefront. So before we do that, I always like to guide people in just connecting with your quiet self. So just doing sort of what we did in the beginning, where you just notice the surface that you're sitting on or lying on. If you feel your feet against the floor, just noticing that. And just connecting with your breath. Noticing what you feel on your inhale, noticing what you feel on the exhale. Once you feel like you've connected with a quiet part within yourself, I want you to invite the part to come to the forefront. So whatever part it is, just invite them to come to the forefront. And just notice, similar to what you did with the stories, notice what your body feels like when you have this part at the forefront. So just doing whatever you can to describe what that part feels like. And then I invite you to do something that may seem strange, but just bear with me. I want you to, in your mind's eye, imagine that you are able to take this part out of your body. So for me, I'm taking my warrior part. I felt my warrior part kind of in my chest, and my breath changes. Just taking your warrior part and putting your warrior part at a conversation distance from you in your mind's eye. So I know that's strange. Can be different if you've never done this before. I say be light and have fun with it. Some people will see a part of themselves. Some people will see colors. Some people will see a cartoon character. Whatever it is, just notice it. You don't have to judge it as good or bad, right or wrong. And just see how you feel towards this part that may be hijacking your system right now. Just again, seeing if you can approach this part with curiosity and compassion and neutrality. And if you do notice like a judge coming in, or if you notice another emotional part coming in, just notice it. And then try to bring yourself back to your breath, because usually it's within your breath that you can face the part with a little more calmness and curiosity. And I just want you to ask this part: what is your intention and purpose in hijacking my Sunday? What is your goal in completely taking over my system on this Sunday? And just notice what comes up for you. And just thanking that part and whatever came up. And for those of you who want to, you can just write down whatever came up for you in terms of what the intention and purpose is of this part hijacking your system. And again, thanking that part for its wisdom. And just bringing your attention back to your mind's eye. I'm going to ask you to ask this part one more question. I want you to ask this part what it needs to calm down. Maybe it's a certain practice, maybe it's a perspective, maybe it's a quote. It could be anything. Try to be open and just allow whatever inner wisdom or insight these parts want to bring to you. So just ask the question, what do you need in order to calm down and step back so I can enjoy the rest of my Sunday? And just listen. And just thank the part for whatever wisdom it gave you about what it needs in order to calm down. And again, if you want to write down whatever came up for you in your journal, I encourage you to do that right now. Before we share as a group, I'm just going to ask you to take a moment. Again, thank this part for whatever wisdom it brought to you about its intention and purpose, as well as thanking this part for whatever wisdom it gave you in terms of what it needs in order to calm down and step back so you can enjoy the rest of your Sunday and go into your week feeling a little more calm and empowered. So just thank it for all of that. And now I'm going to ask you to invite this part to go back into your system. So just inviting whatever part. So for me, it was the worrier. So I'm inviting the worrier to come back in my mind's eye, just inviting it to come back into my body, back into my system. And just taking a deep breath, allowing that to reintegrate. Again, feeling yourself supported by the chair you're sitting in or whatever you're lying on. Noticing the quality of air around you. And when you're ready, you can come back to our work together. So before I share, is there anyone that wants to share what came up for them? And mind you, this is a lot. This could be a lot, especially if you haven't done this work before. So feel free to share that. Share if anything is happening that you either don't get or is a lot. And then also, I just invite you, if there was some insight that you gained about the intention and purpose of this part hijacking your Sunday. So is there anyone out there? I'm just going to wait a moment before I share mine and just see if there's anyone out there that wants to share what came up for them. And again, it can be anything. And if you hear that licking, I don't know if you hear that, that's Misty, my dog. I've got my dog and my cat. They're both in this room. I guess they want to be part of it. Luke, lonely is a part of me. You're only 20 and you're from Ireland. Oh my goodness, Luke. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you liked that part, Luke. I'm so glad. I was just in Ireland. We could probably go on a lot about that. I just went to a wedding in Ireland, in Cork. Actually, the wedding was in Tralee, but the family. Anyway, I'm not gonna get sidetracked. So, thank you, Luke. So, the lonely part does get stronger at night, doesn't it? Do you feel comfortable sharing either the intention or purpose of this part, or maybe what it says that it needs in order to calm down? I'm so grateful for all that you've shared already, Luke. Like, thank you. And I know for a fact, millions of people can relate to what you wrote. Millions of people can relate that, there's a lonely part, and that lonely part will definitely come up at night, which, by the way, it's 9:45. So thank you for being a part of this right now. Yeah. So feel free, Luke, to share if it feels comfortable. I had the warrior part come up, and it told me that its intention and purpose was to just make sure that I'm prepared for the week. And it also said it wanted to make sure that that part that was worried about me burning out, it wanted to make sure that I don't burn out. So it was interesting because then I asked, like, what should I do? And it said, relax. After this is done, like, I'm planning to make a dinner, some shrimp. So I'm going to be making some shrimp scampi tonight, making a dinner. We'll watch the game. And then I'm going to just rest for the rest of the night. So that was the wisdom that I got. Luke, I'm definitely curious about your part in the wisdom that you got. And, it's funny because, of course, I could come up with wisdom, but I feel like everybody, has their own wisdom, and you did. Yay, at 4:44 p.m. You think it's helpful to be social with all your friends. You can tell the part gets stronger when I don't see them for a while. So being around people helps me. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I feel like our lonely parts, I once read that loneliness is one of the most difficult emotions to deal with, or if we use the parts work language, it's one of the most difficult parts to deal with. And I know that personally, I know that professionally. But if you think about it, our lonely parts are probably just saying, like, hey, I'd really like a sense of connection, which we all know is a need, right? Where no person is an island. We desire and feed off of connection. And so this is a way of connecting, right? Though virtual and strange. But Luke, I love the idea that this part is advising you to like, hey, make some plans with friends. Because when we get the opportunity to connect, and I have to say, culturally, I feel like the Irish are big about connection. I don't mean to generalize. I realize, we have different people everywhere, but the sense that I get from the Irish, who I love so dearly and are huge in my ethnic background, um, is just the desire to like converse and talk and connect. I mean, you think about the pubs and the music, and it's all around like connection and storytelling and being with one another. So thank you so much, Luke, for sharing that. I think it's so important. And, if we're going to talk about parts work, I know that so many of us can have social anxiety parts, and then those parts will hijack our system and isolate us. And then we're not getting that connection. So it's so important sometimes when we listen to one part to also listen to the other parts that may be getting in the way of that. So Luke, I hope you get a chance to get together with your friends. And I want to thank you with all of my heart for being so brave and sharing on here today. I feel like it was able to take this in a direction that was much needed. So thank you for every single thing that you shared and for being so brave. Oh, good. I'm so glad. And yeah, so Luke is saying, it's the first time he's ever done something like this, and that it feels good to share. It's so true. I think the vulnerability is real, right? When we share and when we voice things and we're not sure how other people are going to respond. And that's why, again, I start all of this with talking about the importance of non-judgment and compassion. We just don't know. And that vulnerable feeling can feel very risky and scary, but it absolutely transforms us when we can voice. How many times have you shared something with someone and after you're done, like, oh my God, that feels so much better, right? And that's really the power of group. I love group work because I think when you share, you're not only helping yourself, but you then invite and give permission to everyone else. Like Luke, there is not a doubt in my mind that because you shared, anyone else who's feeling lonely, and we know there's other people. We know there's other people listening to this right now that are feeling lonely. We know that there's other people in the world right now that are feeling lonely. So anyone that could relate to that now has permission to acknowledge that. So you not only helped yourself, you helped countless others. So I thank you so much for being brave and courageous. And it means so much to me. And I guarantee it means a lot to other people too. And the fact that you also shared how much it helps you means a lot to me as well. So grateful for you today, Luke. Anyone else want to share anything? Anyone else want to comment on what Luke shared, or share that they can relate about anything, any Sunday story that came up? It could be completely different. You're so welcome, Luke. Thank you. So if there's anyone that wants to comment either in the direction that Luke and I went, or maybe something else that I shared, speak now or forever hold your peace. Just pausing. I'll take another sip of my tea to see if there's anyone else that wants to share anything. Okay. Well, I have to say once again, second Sunday that I've done this. I'm planning on doing it as much as I can. Every Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. There is a Sunday in March 19th, that I know for sure I'm not going to be doing, but I'm looking at a calendar. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 more Sundays until then. So, please, I encourage you, use this space as an opportunity to share your Sunday scary, share your Sunday story. And in doing so, you will help decrease its charge. And I do believe that Luke is a wonderful example today, that his charge that he came into this with hopefully is a little bit less. And yeah. And if anyone out there feels like something came up and they want to continue to share, just remember that you can go to my website and you can write a letter to me, which is anonymous. Letters to Jen about your Sunday story that's binding you, and I will write back and give advice. And then I also have a podcast, Illuminating the Stories That Bind Us. So if you want to kick it up a notch and you'd like to be a participant on the podcast, you can also sign up for that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in the comments here the links so that you can do that. Hold on one second. This is where I have to be tech savvy, and it's not easy. It's not easy. But I'm going to do that right now. Okay. So here, this is the form if you want to be on the podcast. So I'm going to put that here. And let me go back. This is the form if you want to write a letter to me. And again, all of this can be found. If you want to learn more about this, this can be found on my website, which is www.jenniferhcarey.com. Tried for jennifercarey.com years ago, and it was taken, and I've never been able to get it back. And then last but not least, if any of you were moved by what I shared here tonight and you would like to make a donation, you can make a donation easily through Square at this link. So I just did that. So it's at jenniferhcarey.com/donations. And so if you got something out of this and you'd like to make a donation, I thank you in advance for doing so. But I think that's about it. We can wrap up. I hope that this has taken you a little bit closer to your Sunday scaries or Sunday stories that may be binding you. I hope you feel a little empowered and that you are more aware of it. So you're not going to bump into it in the night, that now you feel like you have more control, for lack of a better word, more control or power, or probably the best word is awareness, right? Illumination of it. And I hope that you can go into the week and implement whatever came up for you, so that throughout the week you actually find whatever the story was or whatever the part was is a little bit calmer, right? That's the goal here. And I also hope that all of you have a really good night. I know it's the Super Bowl, so that's something. Luke, you're probably, I don't know if you watched the Super Bowl, but that's a big thing here in America right now. So I'll probably catch a bit of it as well. And thank you, everyone who is here. This is only my second one, so feel free to offer feedback or share any way that it helped you, or share any way that you wish. Oh my goodness, Luke, you are so welcome. You are so welcome. It is my pleasure and honor to do this work. And again, I send you, Luke, a heartfelt thank you for how you showed up. Like, I hope that you can like fall into a peaceful slumber knowing that you were so brave and courageous and that you helped Jen Carey and her illuminating the Sunday stories that bind us tonight. So thank you so much. Thank you for those of you who remained quiet. I'm just grateful for your presence here and hope that it was helpful, and hope that I can see all of you again next Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to end this. So take good care. And again, you can find anything about the podcast, the letters, as well as the donations at my website at www.jenniferhcarey.com. Take good care, everyone. Bye.